Welcome to Scuttlebutt Podcast. I'm Rich Mellon of Trapping Inc.
And I'm Sandi Mellon, and we are once again sitting in the comfort of our own home, and we have a guest.
Our guest is Tom Sallows. It's a pleasure to have you here, Tom.
Yep, thank you.
Tell us a little bit about you. Where are you from?
Born and raised Grovedale, Grand Prairie area, just south of there, small town. So spent life hunting, fishing with Dad, and all that fun stuff. So that's basically my upbringing, sports and outdoors.
And so that led you to one of your jobs?
Yeah. I started Mountain Adventures, it's called, and it took me a while. I'm outfitter. I have been for, I think this is my 10th year I'm going on. I started as a guide before that, contracting to guys and trying to get in the video stuff, kind of like you guys did with the hunting stuff. And that went okay. I did a few, I think 4 DVDs over 4 years and sold a few, but right when Wild TV was coming in, it was a tough racket, especially with no sponsorship, but it was fun. And it was great to get the outfitting business going for advertising.
It is a great tool for an outfitter, exactly. What do you outfit for?
Mostly moose. That's what we're built around, but we do a little bit of few elk, some deer, some bears. I do quite a bit of sheep for guys. Like I'll go up to the Yukon and contract. I've been contracting to McMillan River the last 3 or 5 years or something. So the backpack Linds. Stuff for them. Yeah, done a little bit for them and done a few other places, but Alaska did a couple and stuff like that. So that was lots of fun, but that was all just contract work.
What's your favorite sheep to chase?
Oh, they're all good. I still I like hunting here. Yeah. I like the bighorns just because it's here. I've been lucky enough. I've been over to places like New Zealand, Australia, hunting all over there, and I still, if I had a whole hunting season off, I would hunt here. Yeah. I think, or at least in the northwest. It doesn't really matter. I love the Yukon, love BC. All that's the same kind of thing. Sheep's a sheep to me, whether it's a doll or a bighorn or a stone.
Yeah. Or desert. You didn't mention desert.
No, I've never done desert, and I don't think I ever will. I don't really want to. Not that bad.
Closest I'm ever going to come to that is that I know people that have that kind of money. I don't.
Yeah, and even guiding it. I mean, I just, like I said, I'd rather do bighorn hunt here or go with some friends or whatever it is. I like this country.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on that. When we first started, we've been doing TV 20 years now, like we started the hunting show 20 years ago. When we first started, it was possible to produce 13 episodes right out of Alberta.
Oh, it was actually, it was never easy. There's no such thing as filming and easy, but no. I mean, like even me, I was doing all the editing, producing, and I was able to do 4 DVDs 4 years in a row that were well over an hour content, and that was everything edited down, and that was just me filming our stuff. Like the hunting was so good. Yeah. It was unbelievable for everything. Deer, both kinds, mule deer, whitetail, elk, moose. It was bears, like whatever, sheep. Couldn't do goats in Alberta, but with my guiding, I had a little bit of that come in and the other species. But there was 7 or 8 species we could hunt right here, and such a long season.
And now it takes you 5-6 years to draw a moose. And
well, the availability used to be around, right? And access we talked about that just as you were arriving, right? The access into some of the eastern slopes here, it's not so good anymore because some of our friends out there with big tired ATVs kind of, Yeah, it's definitely changed even in the last, since I've been an outfitter and then a guide before that, but the last, I would say 6 or 7 years, I've really seen a change. I think it was 2006 we had that terrible winter.
Yeah, 6-7.
And at least where I guide, it was brutal. I bet you we lost 90% of our elk and deer. We went from seeing 30 or 40 deer a day just when you're cruising around, just in the ditches and out in the cut blocks and stuff. Like you might just be going camping. And in a 2-3 hour drive, you'd see at least a dozen deer on the way out. And now, and these are bush deer, like this isn't fields. And now, I don't even know if I seen 5 or 6 all season last year. Like it, and they just start coming back, and you think, oh, here we go, and then we get another, bad winter. But I'm hoping the predators are at least down a little bit, so they have a chance to maybe come back somewhat what they were. I don't know if it'll ever get back to the heyday, but.
Well, you see, I mean, I was born and raised here as well, and we never ever did have those heydays. We had that anomaly that happened the late 90s and the early 2000s, and, 5-6 years is all it takes for those deer herds to get like that, right?
Yeah.
To get that big. When we were building this house on this quarter section, of course our roadway and our power line here were all brand new, and it was nothing to walk out as it was getting dusk in August and look out, and there'd be 40 whitetail out there, and there'd be 25 mule deer.
Yeah. Every field just.
Yeah, and that was just here living on our quarter, and then we had that winter. We got 10 feet of snow that winter, and it just decimated them. And then we'd have an easy 1 or 2 winters, and then we'd have another big snow. We had lots of snow last year. Again, So I mean, it's got back to the way it was when I was younger, where we had lots of snow and we had tough winters, and I don't know. You have to have all those stars align for that. That kind of population growth and trophy potential, right?
Well, and you're absolutely right. Like, I remember when I was a young kid, even the moose went through a rough patch where right before they put it on limited draw, it was hard to get a moose there for a while. And before that, it was really easy when I was really young. And then it just kind of got a lot harder, and then they put it on draw, and then it was better than it had ever been. And now it seems to be like we went through a little bit of a lull lately. Luckily, there's still, we have great moose here, and we managed to do really well, and now it seems to be on the way back up. I'm seeing more calves, seeing more young bulls. There's a period there. I think what happened, at least in my area, was there was a gap. We had a whole bunch of old bulls, so even when the population was down, there's lots of old bulls to hunt.
Right.
But then eventually they die off of old age or, hunting and predation and stuff. But now they seem to be on their way back up, and last year was a really, really good year, and luckily we never had a bad year, but I mean, it got a little bit harder hunting. It wasn't, you didn't have 2 hunters done in 2 days. You were hunting sometimes 5-6 days before you'd get them a moose or whatever, which is perfectly fine.
I mean, you've built a reputation though for killing big bulls too. The area that you're in doesn't traditionally produce a ton of moose, but it does produce big moose, and you've got it wired in.
Yeah, I mean, when you've been out there since, I think, I was looking through the photo albums actually a couple months ago around Christmas or whatever, and Dad pulled one out, and I was out there when I caught my first fish kind of out that way when I was like 2 years old. So I've been going out there since I was 2. You start to learn it, and then when you start guiding, that's when you really start to learn an area. And when you live out there, you kind of start thinking like them and knowing where they go. So
what did guiding change for you, like as far as the hunting in the outdoors?
Oh, well, mainly it just made me appreciate it more and actually want to conserve it even more. Not that I always wanted to conserve the way of life and stuff, just hunting was fun, and it was a way for myself and my family and friends to get meat. We never bought beef. We always, that's what we did. We went hunting every year, filled our freezers, and that's how we got our meat. And we're really proud of that, and I had a blast and everything, but it got to a point where we hunted every day.
Yep.
And it almost got to the point it was never boring, but I went through stages, I guess. At first, when I first started shooting things when I was young, it was like, I just want to get something. I wanted action. Yeah, Dad, shoot him, or, it was legal to get him or whatever. And you wanted that excitement, and then it started to get where you started trophy hunting a little bit.
Yep.
And you set your bar. I'm not going to shoot a whitetail unless he's a 140, or an elk unless he has 5 points or 6 points or whatever you might do, right? And then after a while, it kind of got to where I personally have a lot more fun guiding than I do hunting. I would much rather see someone else that doesn't get to experience that take that animal, and I love the work part.
I've never guided
per se.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've guided lots.
I've taken lots of family hunting.
Be careful.
But I tell you what, it was in the 80s when they brought out the draw for moose tag. Mm-hmm. That was devastating to our life. Mm-hmm. And because we went moose hunting every year. We had this whole culture of moose camp, and I had boys and brother and friends, and we'd have this big camp, and we'd go out there, and there might be 8, 9, 10 of us every year, and we get 2-3 moose, right?
Yep. Yeah, it was fun.
But it was a big event too, right? Like in preparation for it. I mean, he was always the cook, so he'd make whatever that we could freeze.
You're on hard time when I'm the cook.
Yeah, not really.
Well, you got the planning.
We'd bake pies and bread, and then your brother would bring fresh prawns off the boat. of
Because
Vancouver.
he'd be coming from Vancouver. So.
And he'd stop along the way and pick up pumpkins for the kids for Halloween and stuff.
Good old days.
Those were some good old days.
That was one of the things that died when we went on draw. I understand the need for it. The last year that before we went on draw, do you know how many moose were shot in Alberta?
I was pretty young then.
He's trying to say you're old.
I'm surprised you remember that far back.
Oh! Well, I'll tell you what. When I looked up the records, they were chiseled in stone. But 87,000.
Oh, that's a lot of moose meat.
Yeah.
You know that, but that's a huge thing. It had to go to draw, and I'm glad it did. I miss those days. I wish we could all hunt moose every day, but there's just too many people, too much access.
Well, we're just about 4 million people now in Alberta, and at that time we were
many less.
500,000.
Oh no, I don't think we were that small.
Or a million?
No, we're probably a couple million.
Yeah.
But
No.
Yeah, because Edmonton and Calgary were
over a million for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there was growth in population, and this area of the country grew really rapidly.
Yeah. Well, see, those tablets were broke when I looked it up.
It's true.
Well, and
Moses and all.
Yeah, there is an end to it though, and it was a good thing bringing that draw in. It still, in my opinion, needs some work in areas, but
what would you change?
That's the hard part, right? Like you need to have enough opportunity for the residents, and there's a great industry with outfitting for myself. People don't get that, and they forget, like there's always this war between residents and outfitters, and then you got the sustenance, and then you got the environmentalists. Well, we're all bashing heads and spending our money fighting each other. We need to be, we all have the same goal.
Yeah.
It's to have more moose or whatever, more game.
Right.
We're using moose for this example, but I think number one, hunting licenses have to go up. Draw applications have to go up. We got to run it more like a business, and we got to start doing more for the animals. And that's why this is a big reason why I got into outfitting. I was like you. I wanted to hunt moose every year. Mm-hmm. I didn't care if I shot one or not, but I wanted to be able to call them and track them and whatever. But then another thing is too, I have a lot of invested interest now, and that makes me want to preserve that even more than I think the average person, especially someone like a city person or somebody that doesn't out there. You might get a hard time, whether it's trapping, hunting. You're cruel, you kill them. How do you want to save them? But we have more invested interest than anybody, right?
I tell you something that really surprised me, and I mean, I was the definition of a Jack Pine savage most of my life. I mean, if you'd looked it up in the dictionary, there'd been me and my brother. That'd been the picture that they had. But when we got this last trap line, the sense of responsibility that came with it surprised me. Mm-hmm. We're in a very active oil patch, and you're always on the watch out for something having gone wrong. And we've had things like a giant pipeline burst on our trap line, that kind of stuff. But that sense of responsibility, that wanting to protect it and protect it for the future, that really surprised me. Mm-hmm.
It's an eye opener. It really is. It's like it kicks you right in the teeth. You don't even see it coming, really. Yeah. Like you want to preserve it selfishly at first, because I want to keep this spot secret and stuff, and we are all like that. We're all selfish somewhat. Like we don't want to give our secrets away, all of our secrets away, especially our spots that we worked hard for. But
nope.
But it was just we wanted to preserve it because this was fun and it provided good meat. Now it's more like we have a connection with the way of life, I believe.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, that's the thing that's kind of driven it home for us, especially on the trap line, is it's a way of life, and it's an appreciation. I think you trap as well. So that when you're out in the bush, you're as close to nature. I mean, it's different than hunting because you're trying to convince an animal to come this close, and you have to speak the language. You have to understand there are a lot more nuances around the wildlife than you do even when you're hunting and guiding and whatnot.
We'll get to that in a minute. I want to ask you, though, like you've thought about this, the things that you mentioned, raising the cost of draws, raising the cost of tags. What do you hope they achieve?
Well, And that's the problem, right? Like, we need more transparency where those funds are going. I want those funds to be put back to where they're supposed to be put back. Like they said, like they increased it. They've hardly went up hunting licenses.
I'm not arguing with you. No, I'm not putting you on the spot that way, Tom. And I also know what you're talking about, more transparency where it goes, because it's always made me angry. The only person that ever pays for wildlife are the hunters, are the fishermen, are the trappers. All the other people that are out there using, all the random camping and all the people quadding and all that, they're not paying anything to be there.
No.
We're the only ones that actually pay, that produce money. And, for the 100 and some thousand hunters we have in Alberta, we're paying a minuscule amount. We should, I don't disagree that we should be paying more.
I don't think it should be ridiculous.
No. No. It has to remain affordable.
Yeah. Like for example, a $50 sheep tag. If you can't afford more than $50 for a sheep tag, you have no business sheep hunting.
Good Lord, no, because what do your boots cost?
Yeah, that's my point, right? And the time off, the scouting, and it's not that I don't think that somebody that doesn't have a lot of money, like I don't have a lot of money, and I still choose to sheep hunt, but like $50 or $30 for an elk or a moose tag or whatever it is now, 40, like it's went up so minuscule. You can't even go out and order steak for that anymore. You can't. Your truck costs $200 to fill with fuel.
Yeah.
I mean, everything else has went up,
but the licenses haven't.
Yeah, well, and where does that money go? It doesn't all go towards back to where it should.
No, actually, it just goes into general revenue.
No, it doesn't actually. The levy.
Sorry.
The levy goes to the Alberta Conservation Association for the preservation of wild lands and habitat and to protect our wildlife. So the Alberta Conservation Association is connected to the government. Thank you. I'm on the board.
Yeah. Well, my best friend is a biologist there. His wife is. His two brothers are. Yeah. So I have quite a bit.
This would be Seward's,
I have quite a connection there, and that's kind of my point. I don't even know the percentages. I try not to get too much into that with them, but I'm pretty sure it's not all going there. But I mean,
no, it isn't all going there.
How much is the?
It's different for every license.
But it's
from my understanding.
It's very small.
It's a
very
percentage.
Small percentage.
Well, it's fairly substantial. I mean,
the one time they asked for the buck for wildlife, that's what it was a buck.
Yeah.
And that was a very insignificant part of it wasn't even 10%.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, the Alberta Conservation Association is one entity in the province that is funded directly by levies from hunting licenses.
Totally. And people forget that.
It's not the only income that the ACA
it's a nonprofit. Has. Like it's they forget that everybody assumes that the ACA is a government. Yeah. And that's not right. Yeah. And the other thing is like they forget, for example, the cost, just to show you how much. I know that when they gave a discount to seniors on hunt licenses. Yep. It was like you would know the number. I can't remember offhand, but it was like a $400,000 hit. That money's just gone because the government decided, I don't know if they're trying to get voters or whatever they were trying to do. Yep. But nope, we're going to give the seniors a discount. Like my dad's a senior and he was pissed about it.
Well, the worst part is that they gave it away, but then the government didn't say the ACA will take care of that. No, they gave away somebody else's money. Yeah. Tell you what, open your wallet. I can give your money away. That's easy. I mean, and that's what they did.
It's exactly what they did. So now all of a sudden there's 200, 400, whatever the money. It doesn't really matter the number, but there's a substantial amount of money there that could have went towards projects and stuff that we need, whether it's for trapping because the ACA does a lot, or hunting or whatever. So you start raising the hunting licenses. I mean, again, it comes down to me anyway. I know I'd get a lot of flack for saying this, but another $10, $15, $20 per tag, like that's a lot of money in the end.
Even if you put $10 on a tag and sent that all to the ACA or whatever, can you imagine the good we could do with that?
And I think more than the tags, what's more important is the draws. $3 and some cents per draw.
Well, it's ridiculous.
It hasn't went up it's been that forever.
It's always.
I think it's a fine line though too, because I think then you can create other, best laid intentions is, a little bit more, and that's great. I don't think there's anything
You got to find
wrong with
that line. I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Because otherwise I think you turn people on the other side
where they're
of the
not
coin.
Applying.
Well,
which is
not
maybe
necessarily that, but maybe they're poaching then.
Well,
right?
and that's, that happens already. So,
certainly it does.
Yeah, that's a problem, and I don't consider those people hunters or outdoor.
I don't think any of us do.
Stewards,
Criminal activity is criminal activity, whether you're shooting something that you don't have a license for out of season or whatever, or you're
stealing
robbing
from
a
the
bank.
7-Eleven. Yeah, from the 7-Eleven.
That's a big problem, though. Like, there's another reason to try to raise more money for it, in my opinion. I mean, we could go on for days
report
about
a poacher kind of thing.
Well, like a big reason why there's more poaching now is because the abundance of game has went down. People are spending a lot of time and effort compared to what they were used to. Mm-hmm. And they used to be able to go out and basically shoot a deer or moose at will, whatever they had a tag for, just go for a day or two.
Yep.
But now they're having to spend weeks and take time off work. And, the family's at home and they're mad that they're having to take this much time. You better come home with something, and then you got to draw here, but general season or, general area right next door. It's pretty easy to shoot one here and across. There's lots of that going on that's the changes that I think need to be made in that sense. Like,
we don't have as much enforcement available any longer.
Well, there's less money, right? There's not enough money.
Well,
it's
understaffed, underpaid.
It's less money being spent on
the
that.
right way. Yes, that's. That's what I mean.
I know, you'll probably, as your trapping career goes on, you'll probably get to know more and more of the enforcement. You probably know a lot of them from your outfitting work and that. Mm-hmm. But the ones that I talk to, it's embarrassing what they spend on enforcement.
And they're worked like dogs too.
Yeah, and yet if you look at AEP, which is the department that Fish and Wildlife is under, there's 66 pages of employee names. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yet enforcement is so poorly taken care of.
Well, enforcement isn't even part of AEP anymore. Isn't it under
They've changed
justice?
It somehow, yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
They're going through that change or something right now. Yeah, there's something there. I actually was talking about.
Well, they changed their name 3 times in as many years as well.
But I mean, it comes down to money. So Africa, it's been proven, hunters pay.
Oh yeah,
it saved Africa.
Yes.
They're now taking animals out of the places where there's hunting allowed and putting them where there's no hunting allowed because they're still poaching where there's no hunting allowed. And the photographers don't pay the bill.
No, they don't. No.
I think that's a really important point because there's, the internet. It's full of warriors for wildlife, but they simply don't understand that when something has a value, people work to preserve that.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, anything with a value survives in this world.
Yes.
Things without value don't. And I mean, perfect examples happening in Alberta. And I'm scared to even say this because we'll probably get off topic, but there's more grizzly bears being shot now than there was when there was a season.
Yeah.
And no one's reporting, even if they see, and people are scared of them. They're tired of seeing so many. And I mean, you think now, especially like Alberta, wake up, especially with BC closing. If you opened a very, very controlled grizzly bear season, gave away very limited tags, charged $50 or $75 to apply for that once-in-a-lifetime tag, a couple $1,000 if you did get a drawn, and make it a slam dunk. And raffle a few off, just like they do with the sheep. You'd be making so much, millions of a year.
I can take you to the quarter section of Good Fair that they can shoot it on.
Well, that's another, like, there's some backwards things, I think. It could be managed better. Even the goat season, they have all these great goat areas, and it's a once-in-a-lifetime tag if you get drawn, but they don't let you go in all the best places and the easiest ones to get to. In my opinion, when you get drawn for something like that, it shouldn't be a gimme. Like, you should have to work for it, but it should be a bit of a slam dunk if you're willing to put the work in.
Yeah.
Like, a grizzly bear tag would be the same example. It should be open spring and fall. There should be the right amount of number given away.
Yep.
And all that money, you could probably raise $5 to $10 million a year just off licenses and raffles, and you're going to get groups, and then that goes directly back to grizzly bear conservation. It's good for the bears.
I've spoke with several biologists from the department, and they all agree that there should be a limited grizzly bear hunt in Alberta right now.
I'm not talking I would love it if there was some outfitter permits because we have beautiful bears, and I could sell those hunts for a lot of money. But that's never going to happen. It's not about that. It's about trying to raise money to preserve it and
it was a political move,
both
in Alberta and
just like BC
and in BC.
Yeah, it's sad.
Yep.
It really is sad, and we all try to convince people.
Well, we might have a change in government fairly soon. And, I think we all know that there are some really good people, particularly in our area, that could be in line for cabinet positions where, maybe common sense could, don't hold me to it, but common sense might,
be the flavor of the day.
Be
well, I hope that the grizzly bear kerfuffle over the years at least leads to something positive in that. I know we were lucky enough. Dad got 2 tags before it closed, and we got 2, and it was awesome. I remember those fondly, right?
Of course.
And our neighbor, and but it's just too bad.
The worst part is that anything the government interferes with, whether it's the Dolly Varden, the mountain goats, the caribou, the grizzly bear, they screw it up.
Yeah.
And the first thing they do is they stop hunting and harvesting of it, right?
Yeah.
The first thing they do is they get rid of the hunting and harvesting.
Because they're going to put it all on a shelf.
And they're going to put it on a shelf because it's the hunter's faults, right? And it's not, because we've proven that those 4 different animals, we've proven that it had nothing to do with hunting over and over and over again.
Well, to a point, too, hunting takes care of itself, and people forget this. That hunting now. I just finished saying that I'm glad moose went on draw, and it had to. And it does, because there's so many people. But let's say you give out 50 moose tags in one WMU, or 100, or whatever it is. If the hunting's bad, I don't think you need to fluctuate once you figure that out. I don't think you need to fluctuate that number of tags up and down unless it gets really dire. Because if you give away 100 moose tags in that WMU, and it's really easy hunting, probably 100 bull moose get shot. People can drive around or whatever, it's easy. They're all when the population's high, but when it's low, 40 get shot, or 10 or 20, right?
Yep.
So people, when they're doing these tags, they forget a little bit about that. Just because you give away 100 tags doesn't mean 100 moose are shot.
No. Well, it's the same thing with sheep, right? I mean, what is the success
several
rate?
thousand sheep tags are shot every year, and 4 to 7% several thousand are bought every year, pardon me, and 4 to 7% is the success rate for residents.
It's been like that since
ever.
Yeah,
forever
pretty much
and ever.
Ever. Yeah.
A lot of it is camaraderie too, though, right? Kind of like our
2 places left in the world or in North America where you can buy across-the-counter sheep tag, Alberta and BC. Yeah. We are the last places in North America where there's a culture of sheep hunters, where people sit around and talk about it. People go out and they do like we used to do with our moose camp.
That's what I was just going to say. Is that it's often, and even if you shot a sheep one year, you have to skip a year, but then you can come with me
and that's one change I would like to see on that. I mean, we get on this topic all the time too, right? And you get asked, and a biologist asking me, what would you say? And we've had everything from, the older the sheep, the less time off. And there's some good ideas out there. I've heard a really good one, if it's broomed, it can be 4/5, but if it's still got lamb tips, it has to be full curl, stuff like that. But I think we should leave it the same, except I think when you get one, to show that we're willing to do that, I think you should take more years off.
It doesn't work because every year it's between 70 and 80% people that register a sheep, it's their first sheep ever. And it's their first and only sheep. Most people, they get a sheep and they're done. We're the wild sheep dinner is here in a couple weekends from now in Red Deer. And the last time I was there, they asked everybody to stand up, and then they says, okay, everybody who's never shot a sheep, sit down. 70% of the place sat down. So that doesn't work. That doesn't work. The trying to age or do stuff like that.
You don't think it would help with the age though?
No,
because guys that aren't just shooting one and done are a little bit pickier.
I've got a few, and I've never found another one that I wanted to shoot. I've helped lots of other people get a ram. I still get to go out and do it, right? Yeah. That's good enough for me. Someday maybe I'll find another ram that I want. I don't know.
Like you too. I've got a few, and that's enough for now.
The one consideration the one thing that everybody says, well, it's barely legal. You mean, well, it's completely legal.
Yeah.
It's just a squeaker. What do you mean by a squeaker? Well, it's just barely legal. Well, no, if it's past 4/5, that's a fully legal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've been through that. My first ram was as lots of people say, barely legal. He was a squeaker. There's no doubt. I was a kid.
So what?
Yeah, and he was legal though.
But it was
It was a legal ram.
And they ran me through the coals even a little bit. Like they tried to say this, he's legal. Here's your sheep, and were you sure? And I said, yeah. We looked at it for hours, and like we thought we were sure, but now you're kind of like
you're scared.
like 20 years old or whatever, right? I'm like, what are you doing to me here?
They do that to everybody though, because I took my sheep in, and they ran me around, and at the time I was wearing contact lenses, and I couldn't see up close. So he told me to point out on the map where it was. Yeah. Right? So I said, well, I can't see your map if I get that close. So if you have a magnifying glass. So he went and got a magnifying glass, and I pointed out right away. And he goes, well, you're supposed to be able to show me that. I said, I just showed you. And then he goes through this whole thing where he drills a hole, and we're taking the DNA and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know what your problem is, dude, but I shot the ram fair and square. I showed you where. I told you where.
I can prove it.
Footage. Yeah.
You can see, if you want to see the footage, maybe I'll make it available.
Yeah. But I don't know what's going to happen there. Like, the one thing I've noticed, and people argue with me, because I want it to stay the same. I'm like you. Like, everyone wants to hold on, right, to this cultural thing. So I would... If they thought that was us taking a step, that was kind of my point on that. I'm fine if I shoot a sheep taking 3 years off. And if that's enough to kind of prolong that over the counter, because you can choose, oh no, you know what? He's not what I'm looking for.
Yep.
You can still go every year. But you can go with your friends if you shoot one as well. I don't know what we're going to have to do, because the biggest problem I see out there is too many people out there.
But here's the thing: we've killed the same amount of sheep year after year after year for this.
Do you think there's less people or more people or the same?
I think it's maybe more concentrated in certain areas, because sooner or later the chit chat gets out there, and even though you say to me or I say to you, "Where'd you get your sheep?" Well, if I told you, I'd have to kill you. Yeah. Nobody. That's all said in jest and whatnot, but there's still people who don't respect the culture of what sheep hunting is, or anything else for that matter.
People are racing for the same ram.
Yeah, well,
that's
we
happening,
know and stuff like that's happening.
That brings up one of the issues with people guiding residents. And they're not. These are not sheep outfitters. No. These people don't have sheep tags, but any outfitter can guide a resident for sheep. And there's a big business in selling information.
Oh, and that's a good point. Like we've been, even as outfitters, because that's a big problem we've ran into now is the residents. We, as outfitters, we kind of call them rogue outfitters. They'll go get their outfitting license and just guide residents, which is legal. Yeah. But we're trying to push for the rule because that you should at least own allocations in that WMU.
Absolutely.
Because then right now it's just there's a bunch of people stomping on feet. And and it's draw here, and you're getting that conflict. Like even the workers out there, man, are seeing more people.
It creates conflict, and where we've been lucky enough not to run into anybody, but our son who's
well, last year they're right in the middle. There's the of course they're in that first week of sheep season, so the actual outfitter for the area is just there scouting, right?
Yeah, cutting firewood.
Yeah, cutting firewood, exactly.
You're sighting guns in. Yeah. Scare them into the timber, boys.
watching everybody else chase around. Yeah. And then in comes the resident guiders guiding these guys. Yeah. And then there's, Matt and his buddies. And so it's foot race in the morning and all that kind of stuff. And
then you got to be careful
because it's actually didn't it?
Lots of times it does.
Not his group, but there was a couple of other groups up there, and there was fist fights going on. It was like, wow, where did we take the left turn?
And then you've got the outfitter though, who's just watched that morning in the valley, 7 rams died. 7 rams that he has an
allocation
for, right? He's
and he doesn't have more right to those rams than anyone.
No. Nobody was saying he was, but those people who are guiding the residents didn't have allocations. Didn't
if they want to hunt them themselves and put in the work, fine. Or go with their group.
Matt says they walk up right at dark. Yeah. Right at dark, and they're looking at the GPS, and all of a sudden, oh, there you are. And he says, they say, well, where's the sheep? So they obviously had bought this information from somebody. Mm-hmm. They did not know where the rams were or anything else.
Oh, that's sad. Yeah, it's not good, and like we joke about the fist fights and stuff. That's actually happening. Like that's not.
It is.
It's not really a joke. But the worst part is, this is where I see the problem, and that's again where I was kind of getting to. When there's too many people after the same sheep, it becomes a competition thing, and then all of a sudden that sheep, especially when you only have to take 1 year off. Well, if I don't shoot that sheep, Joe over there is going to shoot it out of that group. So I'm going to take him. There is a greed thing there.
No, I know.
There is a competition
you're
thing
talking
there.
about morals and ethics.
Yeah.
And we can never legislate morals and ethics. Those are personal.
Yeah. I wish there was a way to get less people.
I think
it's managing people.
Yeah.
True it is. I just don't see that working. I just, because I know people who
I actually think we're not killing too many sheep.
No, we're not.
We have great sheep populations right now.
Our population's as high as they've ever been. This year, matter of fact, our lamb recruitment's off the charts.
Yeah.
But you take a look at, people say, well, it's down from, back here. Well, do you take a look at how many times they made the Sheep River Sanctuary larger? We lost Galatea. We lost all of these incredible sheep hunting areas. We're actually killing more in proportionate or prorated now, more rams than we ever did. Mm-hmm. Because we've lost so much area and opportunity, and yet we're still killing, that 180 to 220 worth of rams every year.
And people forget too, they get mad because there's people sheep hunting that never have sheep hunted. It's become Hollywooded. Back even 8-10 years ago, the sheep hunter sheep hunted. Yep. People would experiment for it, and they screw this, or they get hooked and they become sheep hunters. Mm-hmm. But now everybody wants to sheep hunt, and that's
it's sort of like the brass ring, I guess, right? Like people want, if you're gonna hunt, then you hunt the most, elusive or whatever,
and they want to brag about how hard it was more than anything, and they want to post on social media, oh, this was the hardest hunt ever, when really they don't necessarily want it to be.
I don't want it to be.
Yeah, I mean, so we're getting more people spreading out more, or not. Well, there's more people, so they're not spreading out more, but there's more area getting hit. I think some of those little sanctuaries. That's what I see anyway. I just seems like I run into a lot more people. I know when we first started, when we were just 18, 19. I started when I was 12 with my dad. And it was never easy getting a sheep. He shot a ram when I was 11. And that was the first ram they ever got, the first time they ever went. And they were hooked. A nice, big, huge, full curl ram.
Yep.
Actually, not far from where you shot yours. And brought it home, and I was hooked as soon as I seen this thing. It was 85 pounds of horn and head and cape.
Yeah.
Like, it's huge. And okay, yeah, well, we'll just go in there every year and get one. Well, we sheep hunted from 12 until I was 21 or whatever it was when I shot mine. And we didn't do it right. We went weekends and we're glassing with our rifle scopes. And like we didn't have the money. But we went. We walked in there and we'd take 4 or 5 days every year, 3 days, whatever we could get, and do 1 or 2 hunts. And that was it. And we'd go and we'd run all over Skyline and didn't have a clue.
Nope.
But, and most importantly, didn't have the equipment. And we did that it took till I was 21 or 22 or 20 or whatever the heck it was. I can't even remember. That was the next legal ram we seen. Yeah, so when they're running me through the rings, well, I'm getting up there. When they're running me through the ring about that ram I shot, that's what I said. I said, well, listen, I've been following my dad around there since I was 12, and my dad's with me. This is something special. I scouted this area. I found him before the season, and I always said the first legal ram I seen was going to get it, because if I had a chance to shoot a legal ram, I'm going to shoot them because they're so hard. This might be the only one I ever have a chance at. Yep. After 10 years of walking around, not even seeing a legal ram.
Yep.
We were learning. But we were moose hunters.
Yeah.
It's an education bought with shoe leather and sweat.
Yeah. We were hunting them, walk over and peek over those cliffs and hope he's there at 75 yards. Like we'd hunt different game. We didn't sit in glass. We didn't have I remember for the first 6 years I had a monocular. Yeah. That was my binoculars, a little freaking monocular, right? So
it's all fun and games until your toenails fall off. Right?
Yeah. And we'd go up there and it'd be a weight loss program, and we'd look forward to it though, even though get a few ewe draws and we'd shoot ewes when
Yeah.
we get drawn, and that was great. But it was hard. And
That's one of the things that we need to bring back is the U draws. Do you
they're
realize
still
that
there, but they're sure have scaled the tags back? Eh? Or,
Oh, yeah,
or is
we
it just
used-
more people are applying?
we used to kill 10%?
Yeah.
10% with the ewes. We did a 10% ewe harvest every year, and our ram population was larger.
And I think that's something to do with a little bit of horn growth too. I've always believed that. There's only limited winter ground.
Yep.
Yep.
And it's getting more and more limited as
Yeah.
as we have the aspen encroachment, that kind of thing. It's astounding. Yeah, I got a kick out of you talking about the the weight loss program. When sheep hunting started to get really popular, well, we'd been at it for quite a while, and people would then they come up and talk to you, and they'd hang on every word, and they want to know what's the best sleeping bag and the best clothing.
Sleeping bag?
Yeah.
Who has a sleeping bag?
Tent?
So it's funny. I look at them and I'm thinking, this guy's going to have 900 pounds. He's going to try and pack on his back, and I look at them. And I said, listen, none of this stuff's great.
Yeah.
But it's going to keep you alive.
That's all it is. It's a survival.
It's
That's
just
all it
barely
is.
going to keep you alive.
Like, you don't take a toothbrush.
Yeah.
You don't take anything. Like, no, that's too much
It
weight.
might weigh an ounce.
Yeah.
But you put 16 of those ounces together, and suddenly it's a pound.
Yeah.
And that's just,
And when I was guiding there for a while, it was like, and I was getting into the video, so I had the cameras were never this small. You remember them?
Oh yeah.
And hauling them around, that's one thing I did do is I bought Dad a Dall sheep hunt he always wanted a Dall sheep after he got his bighorn.
Right.
And I saved money, and actually me and my sister and my mom got together and paid for part of it, and we bought that for him. And I went with him, and I got a bit of a deal on it if I went and filmed and helped guide or pack or whatever the label is, eh? And we went to Alaska, and that was something special. But it's so much weight. Like, a person doesn't realize you're like, I was lugging 100 pounds. My dad was, what was he, about 60 or just under 60 when we went, and it was a backpack only area. But the sweetest thing ever, we did that and found the ram, and he ended up shooting a book ram, but we didn't really care about the size as long as it was a good representative. And then we had to sleep there on the side of the mountain under a tarp right on a glacier and look across, and the moon's hitting the glacier on the far side. And
oh my gosh, that just gives me shivers. It's just so beautiful.
Actually, that video is actually on my Vimeo page or my website, and that's still one of the ones that still gets the most attention. Everyone says that's special.
It is special anytime, and it's so quiet.
Mm-hmm. That's what sheep hunting is.
Well,
that's what it's supposed to be.
It is supposed to be, but people who've never done it don't understand the power of the silence, because it is deafening, right?
Do you remember that valley that we shot our goats in?
Yeah.
And there was 3 glaciers in there.
Yeah.
And it was just you kind of forgot what you were there for.
Oh yeah.
Because you start looking around, and it's like you just absolutely forget that. Oh, I'm supposed to be looking for those goats or whatever, right? Because it was overwhelming, and we've lived this stuff in all our life, right?
You remember who you were with, and funny things that happened or not so funny things that happened when we came down off the mountain with those 2 goats.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to follow him, and it's dead dark, and there isn't a path anywhere there.
And you know what happens when I had probably 150 pounds on.
Yeah.
Because I had a full Cape goat and all that anyway, you know what happens then in the mountains? What do? You find the muskeg and the balsam muskeg, right? It's like,
that's worse than climbing.
Yeah, way worse.
But people forget that. So I know you get questions lots about this. I sure do. I get emails all the time. We're posting pictures. Well, we have to post pictures to sell hunts. And like if you're doing it for, why are you shooting big ones? You should be doing this for meat. And forget that about trophy hunters. Trophy hunters use way more than just meat hunters.
Yep.
We shoot an old bull, and then we have, like, if you look around here, all these mountain animals. Every time you look at one of those animals, those memories come flooding back.
Oh, yeah.
And now you've used the cape, you've used the antlers, and people think we don't eat them.
Yeah,
we have to take all the meat.
Yeah.
You have to take every ounce.
Absolutely.
And why wouldn't you? It's healthy. It's delicious, and
it's
you know where it's coming from. Yeah, I don't understand that and I guess they just don't understand.
Well, they don't, and sometimes the best thing you can do for you and for them is just not have the conversation, because they want to fight.
Yeah.
They don't. They're not engaging with you to understand. Right. They just want to pick a fight with you. And that's one thing, that we've learned in our years of and as social media has built to be what it is today, and who knows where it'll be next year, but we just don't engage with the people that you can't have a reasonable conversation.
No, you don't.
You get a feel for them.
And you just say, I don't.
They're not going to change your mind.
No.
And you're not going to change
theirs.
No point. Let's talk about something different, eh?
Yeah, they're just trying to be emotional. And today, one of the obscenities of social media is that they can attach terrible connotations to things like trophy now is a terrible thing to say. Being rich is a terrible thing. Being wealthy is a terrible thing. I don't understand how this gets twisted around, but it's once again, it's the politics of division where we can, because you have more than me, that's wrong. We can divide people up and we can cause strife that way, right?
We can segment our own, even within our own outdoor world, right?
Yeah.
Just, like you were talking about, and I was talking about too, fistfights on the mountain and whatnot. It's just this idea that one has more right than another to be in a certain place at a certain time for a certain thing.
It's like we're going backwards in evolution.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like the balance between resident hunters and outfitters. I understand the need for both and for respecting both. But we get a lot of people contact and want us to be, lead the charge against, hang all the outfitters, and it can't be that way. But
I'm a resident first. Still, I've been a resident forever, and that's what I know. I do my best effort. I run into people. I get people following me, trying to figure out things from pictures and videos and stuff. And I can tell right now, like I put stuff in there to mix people up on purpose, right?
Oh yeah.
But the odd person figures it out, or you stumble upon them, and all you can do is actually met one of my best guides doing this. They were in there, and he kind of joked about it. Finally, we found one of your spots. And I was like, okay, well, where are you guys going to hunt? And they said, well, we're planning on hunting here. I'm like, okay, we'll go over here, and we won't come through here because you're here, and you leave us out. Like, fair's fair. Oh, and they couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And they were like, you know what? That's a pretty good move. And we've had our fun here for a couple of days. We're going to go try a different area. Have at her. It was amazing.
But up to that point, they were looking for a fight, weren't they?
Well, they were just
to see what would come of it.
They were excited almost to see me, I think, because he had kind of followed me around a little bit. So,
okay.
But like, oh man, this is the right spot, kind of, or one of them, or whatever. But, it doesn't necessarily mean it. It just, but no, we developed a great friendship. So things can, as long as you're willing to work through it. There's lots of game out there. It doesn't mean they're going to be standing right there. I think
it's not all at the end of the road either, right? Because that's, we've run into that so many times. You'll be picking your way down, and somebody will just go roaring past you because they're going to get to the end of the road first.
And then you get one.
And then you get one because
they see you on the way back, eh? Yeah.
I can remember I wasn't very old when I first learned that lesson. My father and I, and those days, you drove around in a pickup. Like, we did have pickups back then. I was maybe 10, 11 years old. And
that's what they called a horse and carriage.
Anyway, people get up behind him, and we're going down I don't even think the road even exists anymore. It used to be the Big Mountain Road down through Big Mountain Creek. And anyway, we stop. Dad says, let's just pull over and we'll have pour a cup of coffee. So he pulls over and I'm pouring coffee as these people are going by. And of course, I'm a kid. I'm all excited. It's morning time. Dawn's just breaking, kind of thing. These people all go by, and he says, well, we'll just sit here and wait, and the dust settles and that. And we're sitting there, and I'm just antsy to get going, and a cow and bull walk
out. Big mistake.
Yeah, right there. We're done right there,
It's pretty bad when you got to move it out of the way on the road when other people are coming back,
eh? But that lesson stuck with me my whole life. Is like, why are you in a rush to be over there?
Yeah, you don't know they're going to be over there.
Well, we ran into the same thing when we were in New Zealand, actually, because we'd had a good day hunting tar, and he got one, and it was a beautiful day that day. But as we were coming down off the mountain, the weather was starting to pull in, and on the South Island in the Southern Alps where we were, you just looked around and you could tell they get snow and down there, and we were there in that season.
Yep.
So we started out the next morning. A big fog had rolled in, and it was drizzly rain and whatnot. But our outfitter was just head down and going up the mountain. And Richard's like, Neil, we should probably slow down because we can't see.
Well, 1 minute you could see 50 yards, and then you might see 300, and then it goes back in.
Those Kiwis are nuts, though.
Well, they are.
Go.
Well, he, we'll just pop up over here. And it's like, pop up.
We'll just climb
maybe.
over this mountain in the
Yeah,
next
love
half
it. We'll
hour.
climb those
But that's
cliffs.
exactly what happened, though, is that we stopped. Neil came back. We kind of, just chit-chatted a little bit because there was Neil and then, what was the fellow's name that was with him? And you and I, anyway. There was the four of us.
Yep.
And we just stopped, and then the fog kind of lifted, and here was this whole band, and that's that tar that's on the wall there.
Yeah. They're awesome, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
I have hunted them. I never got one. I let my friend go first, and it's kind of like that. We got down off the mountain, and we had monsoon for 4 days, and then we got stuck in between two rivers. There's tar all over the mountain. We couldn't get up. So I got to get back there in the next couple of years. And
you do, because
I love it.
It's
Love that
such
country.
a beautiful
Yeah.
place. And then, we almost ruined a camera because that was our first trip.
Yeah.
Was there, and we went to the South Island first, and then we had a grand time. We, did a little bit of tourist and stuff. Well, but we went up to the North Island where we took the ferry across a midnight crossing, bumpy, ugly, lost a motor.
Rained 16 inches in 2 days or something like that.
Sounds like my tar hunt.
Yeah.
I was like, I couldn't believe it could rain that much.
Well, we literally crossed the river, and it was not even the width of this room, and not even to our knees in the deepest spot. And we got up the next morning after getting back. It started to rain right when we finished boning that thing out. And we got back. It was a 2-hour walk back and just lightly raining. We got up in the morning, and there was boulders the size of cars rolling down the river. I've never seen anything like it. And there's a river on each side of us.
Wow.
So
that was fun.
4 days of watching tar from there, and it was just kept raining, and finally it stopped, and we still couldn't cross. I tried, and it was something. But that's beautiful country over there. That's so fun.
It sure is.
Yeah.
So you recently purchased a trapline.
Yes, I did.
And tell us a little bit about where it's at, how big it is.
It's not a real big one, but it's big country. It's pretty long and narrow. It's right along the BC border, so it's fairly remote. It'd be kind of south of Grand Prairie, along there. So I guess closest. It's almost closer to Tumbler in a weird way. Yeah.
Okay.
Or not closer, but it's that way. But yeah, it's only 1.6 townships, but man, it's a lot of country to cover, and it is the funnest thing I think I've ever done. And maybe it's just because it's new and it just expands this way of life, but I never seen myself as a trapper. I was always interested in it. It's kind of funny how I got interested in it. Is my dad's best friend who helped raise me hunting and got me into all that stuff, as he was a big time trapper. And I was so busy playing sports in the winter and stuff. And I'll go next year, thinking that. And then as I got older, I got busier and still kind of kept putting it off. Yeah, I think I'd like to get interested, but why would I ever do that? I got to concentrate on this outfitting, and I can't make any money trapping. And I was missing the boat. He was a great trapper, and then he got really sick actually, and got Lyme's disease and ALS and passed on. And then that was when it was kind of kick-started me. You can't hesitate.
No.
In this world, no. You can't put stuff off that you might be interested in. So I started kind of kicking some tires and waiting for a line that fit me nice, and finally this one came up. I actually tried to work on it for 2 or 3 years, bugging the guys and stuff, and then all of a sudden I got this phone call, and we're selling the line. Okay. I've went with a few friends a couple times, but how are we going to do this? So it was a little bit of an awkward thing. It's still, I guess, in the process of transfer, but we got it. So technically you're a junior for a while, and you're working under the current senior, and they've been great with that and everything. So it's went really well, but yeah, it was amazing. It's we talked about that social media and getting out there, the quietness. So it's my favorite thing to do now is go out, no cell service, no internet, nothing,
the thing that I was amazed by, and I mean, I lived the whole life out there and that, But it was a time of the year when you really didn't spend a lot of time in the bush.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it was the time of the year where you maybe went out and got a load of wood or two, maybe half dozen times a year, or went out, burned a wiener when you're just stir crazy and that kind of stuff. But you didn't spend a bunch of concentrated time. And there was a whole bunch of animals that you didn't know a bunch about.
Yeah.
You know?
Like seen two Marten in my life before then, or whatever, right?
Well, I've seen them. I've seen them, but they, it was a rare thing. I didn't know much about them.
Yeah.
Because it just wasn't. It never was in the wheelhouse, right? Otters. Like we have a lot of otter on our line, and it was just something I knew nothing about, and I knew that at one time river otter were in trouble in Alberta, and I just assumed that. Smoky River. If you're around the Smoky River for very long, usually you'll see an otter in that, and that was always so very special. So when I got out there, and all of a sudden, here's these otter tracks through the snow. It's like they're out in the snow. Like it was such a shock, right?
Yeah.
There was just so much I didn't know, and I cannot tell you. And maybe it's the same for you. I cannot tell you how much it has changed my appreciation of the outdoors, and how much it's increased my education about these animals.
And their habitat and what goes on out there in the depth of winter.
And I think it makes you better, like for someone like myself or you or anybody. I think it makes you, not that appreciation is amazing, but it also makes you more adept for hunting or guiding or just being out in the outdoors. Like, you're spending more time, you're thinking like animals, you're out in the environment, and it's just awesome. It's so fun.
Even the realization that when you're setting up a lynx pen or when you're setting up a wolverine pen or whatever, just to get down on your knees and look at it from their height, even the realization to do that's quite the revelation. And when you do it, it's like, oh, it does make a big difference, right? Now I understand, because when you were standing up, we got 5-6 feet of 5 feet of elevation difference on them. Things look different from up here. But when you get down on theirs, then you can see what's important, And I was just, whether you're a hunter or a fisherman, I've said this many times, there is an advantage of distance. Whether you're shooting a rifle, a bow, or casting a hook or whatever, you don't have to get them right up to you. But when you're trapping, you have to convince them to go right there.
Yeah, and people miss that. And I don't know. It's hard to explain for me. I don't know why I'm having such a good time with it. Other than that, it's something new, and it's exactly how you said it. It's just a release for me now, and it's mine. I'm not guiding people doing it.
Yeah.
You own your own experience
and stuff, but this is just something totally different, and it's so cool when you do learn something, because you learn lots fast. And for me, it was, you have to learn this right now, and I had a lot of skills from hunting and fishing and whatever. It is similar in a lot of ways. I find it very similar to fishing.
Yeah.
But it was, okay, it's time to go trapping. And then we got a late start because the winter was late getting here, and it was swampy. It's such a swamp out there. And we couldn't get around skidoos. And then, so we were trying these quads and side-by-sides. Side-by-side got stolen. Oh. Yeah, like it was just like, so we had something like 20 or 25 traps within like 3.5 kilometers of the cabin. And the first set we caught like 3 marten. We were pumped, or two marten, and one the next time, and that was pretty good. And then we ended up getting we got a lynx on our first lynx set ever, just like the pens like you guys did. And I watched all the Trappers Inc. shows, and I read books, and I'm like, and my partner was like, holy smokes, you're really hardcore on this. I was going out every week at least for a couple days, and he's like, you're crazy. And I said, well, man, I got time now. Like, this is perfect for me. I should have been doing this for 15 years.
Yeah. You know the thing, of course, if you're going to be a trapper up here in the north in the wintertime, you're going to learn how to do a lot of stuff in the dark. And that, for me, the total relaxation that comes with that darkness, I don't know. Amazing. I'm out there and you shut off the machine and you get out, and it might be 2-3 in the morning, right? And you get out, and maybe the wolves are howling way off there, or maybe it's just dead quiet and the northern lights are up there. It's just, you're at such peace. Like, it's hard to explain, and people think about how cold it is and how dangerous it is and all that. You don't think about any of that.
Well, it's not dangerous.
Well, there certainly is, more danger in the darkness than there is in the daylight, right? You're doing and things take longer.
If you break down, it might be a long walk or whatever, and and the cold, you can never ever underestimate the the danger of cold, but it's just there is so much relaxation, and even though you go out, I don't know what your trips are like, but our trips, is 3 days, and I probably work between 28 and 30 hours in those 3 days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you come back at the end of all of it, and you're just pumped up, ready. It's
Rested.
it's like you've been on vacation, right?
I haven't slept this good ever. Like I get in the cab, and we got it's a beautiful cabin, and I could live there. I sleep so good there. I think it's away from everything. And I'm like you, it's perfect for my personality. And that's why guiding works good for me too. I must have ADD or something. Like I can't sit still.
Yeah.
But then you're right. There's a calmness that comes with that. So I'll get up at 3, 4 in the morning and away I'll go. And if my trapping partner happens to be with me or whatever, he's all mad at me because he's busy all week working. So it's more of a relaxation thing for him. Whereas I want to be a trapper.
Yeah.
I love the trapping is the relaxing part for me. And I give her, and I don't get back to the cabin until after dark. And I'm just giving her between traps and checking as many as I can. And he's trying to keep up and he's getting mad. Well, we should maybe get going back. No, we got to get, let's go. We got time. Well, it's almost dark. Yeah, we got lights. Like, let's go. Yeah. And he's just, he's
thing on the front there. Yeah.
Yeah. He's giving me a hard time all the time. He wants to go back and have a rum and play some cards. And that's great too. We do lots of that. That's part of it. You sit there and you play crib or
that
Yahtzee.
Camaraderie is
And I like pissing them off a little bit sometimes too. Yeah, it's kind of fun. It works good.
You know how to play crib. An outfitter that knows how to play crib. I'm shocked.
Surprise, eh? I know how to solve a lot of world problems too, right? We're cruising along and it works. It's almost perfect when we're doing a Marten check, and I love Marten trapping.
Yeah,
I love setting for links too, but Marten is fun. It's relatively easy. Once you're set. There's no such thing as easy in trapping, but it's once you're set, you can give her pretty good. And I got a little narrower skidoo than him, and I'm used to going through bush. I'm just right through the willows and stuff that are on our lines. And here he is. He's coming, and he's mad, so he's chopping the odd branch. So I'm in there. I've rebaited or lured or checked or grabbed the Marten, and by the time I get it all reset, I walk back to the skidoo, and he comes idling along. And away we go. I don't even let him stop. And he's just mad. But
he might want to eat a sandwich or something.
Yeah, and that's what I've been told by I have a few friends that are really good trappers, and they told me it's all about efficiency. Yep. Just keep giving her and don't get them in too hard of spots. And so I like to keep moving. But that again, that's it. I'm weird that way. That's relaxing to me. That's what I love to do is just give her and put in a hard day.
Yeah,
that's him.
That's me too. I have over 300 kilometers of trail.
Yeah.
And I will cover all of that in that 28 hours that I'm out there, So
I don't have that much. My trap line's not big enough, but someday I will have.
No, but
get them cut. Yeah.
You just keep going, but it's just I don't know. It's just so relaxing, and I love the thought process. I love the fact that we have so many different animals. Like I know we get because of of the TV show, and that we have the privilege of talking with a lot of people that are specialists. Like Morley with his wolves, and the different people that we've talked to, Ryan and Coyotes, and they have their animal. That is their animal, and when you sit there and listen to them, and that you realize that they understand the animal. They understand, that they can have a conversation with it. Basically, is what it amounts to. I'm not that good with anything, but I have a bunch of different animals that I'm learning pretty good on. It's quite enjoyable.
It is. You start thinking like them, and I always used to bug my sheep hunters or moose hunters. Like, you want to get a moose first, you have to become the moose. That's something I just would joke around about. But trapping's on another level that way. You really got to think like that.
Well, and the other thing is the people that you meet, right? Like we're fortunate in Alberta that we've got a really great community of trappers. And here, I know you belong to the local that we belong to, but we're a different group of people. And yet there's people from all kind of walks of life that
we have a doctor.
Yeah,
we have a doctor. We have many
oil field
company
folks.
owners, that kind of stuff.
Farmers.
Yep.
Bankers.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I like how it used to be so secretive. And that was the thing. Like, as I read books and I talked to people, and I'm like, man, why didn't I hear about this? I give my dad a hard time. He's telling me these stories. Oh, we could have had this trap line for $5,000, and it was one of, but we didn't want to spend that much money back in the 70s or 80s. And I'm thinking, what? And it's not as if they couldn't come up with $5,000. And back then, the Lynx was going for $1,200. So, and like, it was good money back then, but it was a secret.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, the trappers didn't even want to get out that it was good to non-trapping people. And like, we were at a meeting. I don't know if you were at that one. I think you were.
Yeah.
And it was my first meeting and one of the guys brought up, or a couple of them actually said, like, this is the problem. We can't keep growing, or it's impossible for us to grow and get more people interested because only trappers, people that have trapped and has went down the line are the people that become trappers. And I actually had to stand up and say, no, like, actually, this is my first year and I've wanted to, but now I've decided I'm going to do it, and I did it.
Yeah.
And my dad never trapped. I grew up hunting and fishing, but I never trapped, but it's something I was interested in. And like, you can get into this.
Well, and that has been one of the main driving forces behind Trapping Inc. was to share. Part of it was to combat, the PETA stuff and the skinned alive BS and all that stuff. It was very important to spread the truth, because trappers were so secretive, as you've pointed out, and because they were secretive, people told lies about them, and they never defended themselves because they didn't want to
Draw
stand
attention.
up. Yeah, they didn't want to draw any attention. So
that world's over.
It is over, but the really neat part of what the feedback that we get through social media and direct, emails and stuff is, my grandpa trapped, or my uncle trapped, or the neighbor trapped, and I'm into it now, or I did it when I was a kid, and I'm 60 years old now, and I'm getting right back into it. It's just sort of reigniting what some people have known, and there's other people that haven't had any connection to it at all. I never did.
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah.
But it's a whole different world, and it's a whole different group of people that are involved.
Canada was built on it.
Yeah.
Marten.
Yep.
You like the Marten.
Oh, I love it.
What
the Marten season anyway, like
tell me some lessons you learned about Marten this year.
Well, number one is we were talking about this in the basement, but I will never set another horizontal box. It's not that I didn't catch any that way, but we get so much snow out there.
Yeah.
And like, I learned I don't have the mice.
Right.
Or not many. And which is a good thing in a way, but they eat squirrels. So, for me, luckily, I can find the nicest big spruce tree with boughs, and I can put a Marten box on there, head high or whatever.
Yeah.
They love running up that bark. I don't have to put leaners. It's, you can nail it or wire it to the tree, however you want to do it. So that's one thing I learned. The efficiency thing we talked about. Like, when we first went out there, we were just putting boxes on trees and trying leaners, and we had this little area that we could do, and we were just excited to do it. So we got out and set some boxes, and we got a couple, but that was a big thing, was starting to learn what to look for.
Right.
And just the country, and by the end of it, because I was still up until I pulled my traps about 4 or 5 days before the season ended, because I got busy, and I figured we had enough.
Yeah.
Kept track of all my, did the book and everything for the ACA and all that, and we did awesome. 2 out of every 3 were males, and it was just it just went perfect. We ended up with 28, which was I think we had 60 traps out only
that's good,
and for only part of the season. So I was pretty proud of that. My goal was 25, so that was good. But I don't know. You just learn what to look for. It's hard to even explain. Like, when we first went out there, we thought we're probably calling squirrel tracks Marten tracks. Like, we're so excited, right? But you start to learn. You catch your first one, you follow the tracks to it, and you see how they move and how they run around the tree. And sometimes we got a couple that didn't go in, so we fooled around with bait, and found out that out there, beaver and squirrel work good. Used link a couple times because we got some links, and that worked a little bit. But the beaver, and by the end, I was doing beaver squirrel combo, and I tried a bunch of different lures. And you know what though, I found when I changed things up on my line anyway, is that's when it really seemed to work. Every time I changed it up, we'd get them and get to a new area or whatever, and they love the creeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, they love running the creeks. You find a good area, you put a couple traps. You don't have to necessarily space them out exactly a kilometer or two apart or whatever.
Nope.
You know, you learn where to look, and man, it works once you start. You catch a few and you start, that's why I like it like fishing. You watch where that fish is jumping, or you see what the bugs are in the water. And
I always talk about fishing, and people talk about, well, how do you know where the right spot is? I said, well, 10% of the water holds 90% of the fish. I said, it's just like if you have somebody, you go to a party and you find people will be clustered against the wall or clustered around the couch or whatever. Nobody's standing right out in the middle of the dance floor. That's not the right structure, right? And it's the same thing with the marten.
Skinning was fun. I like that.
Were you surprised at the size of track they have?
Yeah, a little bit. Well, again, it's kind of hard when you get fresh snow. They look bigger and stuff, but they're actually quite big.
Yeah,
like
they are.
Like that's what I mean. The first time we went out, it's like, oh, is that a squirrel or a weasel or a marten? And then, well, maybe it's a fisher. But by a couple weeks in, we had it pretty dialed in. I know, same thing. Like when we got a wolverine, we set for that. That's a pretty special one for me, because I had that idea of building it, make it look like something buried it, and have only one way in, and built a tunnel in there, and had the trap part way in there, and all covered so the snow couldn't get it in, and put an old deer cape or something off one of the deer I shot, and some beaver in there, and that worked like a charm. But I got to take Dad out, and he kind of got to supervise while I built this and throw some ideas my way and stuff. So that's a memory. Like, I'm going to get that thing mounted with one of my first links, and that's the memory. I'm going to keep that one for myself, and might be the only one I ever get. I don't think there's a lot out there. I know the previous trappers have never got them, but we set for that species, and we got them, and it worked.
You're in the foothills, so I mean, there should be.
There's obviously a few.
Most of your trap line, if it's the one I'm thinking about, it's mostly like black spruce, right?
Yep. Yeah. Swamp spruce stuff.
Swamp spruce. Yeah. So you don't have a lot of hardwood ridges or anything like that, or?
No, not really. There's a few ridges, but that one's mostly lake and swamp, and that's why we couldn't get around it. And there's a couple river and creek valleys.
Yeah.
Like, I know the river valley was dynamite. Like, we had one spot that I think we got 12 or 13 of our marten off, like a 2-kilometer run, and they just kept coming.
No kidding.
All year. Yeah.
Well, right till the end. They're traveling. They're traveling.
We found their spot, and and then finally I pulled those ones a little bit early because we got a couple females. Before that, we were getting huge males.
Yeah.
And a few juvenile males. So they were running through there, and there were squirrels all over, and squirrel towns and stuff. Like, it was awesome. The one pole we put, you could tell it was a good one. Actually, there was a box left there from the senior partner. So he showed us, we've had pretty good luck here. So we went out there and we put a squirrel pole down from each side of the box and put the trap there. And we caught a couple. And then one time I came there and we had 5 squirrels on this pole, 6 on this one, and a marten hanging out of the box. Like, it was like, woohoo!
Christmas morning.
Yeah. Actually, that was our best run. We did, I went out there, and that's the time I got my wolverine. I think we got like 16 or 17 squirrels, half a dozen weasel, 7 marten, a lynx, and a wolverine.
Wow.
All in one day check. Like, it was crazy.
So, any mink out there? Must be some mink on the river.
I never set for any.
Yeah.
But there's got to be some, because there's some, especially along the river where there's some fish, and there's a couple of little lakes and stuff that have streams going into them with lots of muskrats. So I didn't bother even, like, this year was mainly I'm trying to learn, and I really wanted to focus on marten and lynx and wolverine because it's fun. I got a few dog sets out there, but we haven't really. I don't want to educate them just yet. I think I got a little bit of learning.
Is there a lot of wolves there?
Not much anymore. There was a few years ago, even up to. But
well, what happened?
Well, game starts dropping. The wolves have to move on or die, right? It's just how it is.
Exactly with our trap line. We have a lot of muskeg, a lot of swamp, so it doesn't support a lot of ungulates. I mean, there are moose there, but not a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, we probably haven't seen a dozen moose in 20,000 kilometers out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if there isn't the ungulates there, you don't have the wolves.
Yeah,
right?
and it's tough country. I mean, even a moose isn't necessarily great food source for a wolf. They'd rather there's a couple caribou kicking around there and stuff. So there's some
caribou.
food. Yeah, there's a small herd there.
Yeah.
They go back and forth from BC, so you never really know where they are, but you see their tracks once in a while. And the old trappers had some notes in the book there in the cabin of seeing them and stuff. So that's kind of cool. You come in there, there's caribou tracks. There is a couple alive still, kind of thing, right? Like,
yeah.
That's
so I'm
cool.
sure I'll
The
run into 'em.
history, though, like that booklet that you said too, right?
Yeah,
Like
I've just continued that on, and that's the first thing I do when I get back or before I go to bed or whatever in the cabin is I fill out what I did for the day or that weekend or whatever, and it's going to be cool
nice.
to go back and read the whole history of it.
So any cougar?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. I've seen a few tracks, and I've seen them out there before I was trapping out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a lot, but there's not a lot of cougar are elusive, right? There's always more than you think there is.
Well, I mean, and you're on that river valley.
Yeah.
I mean, the river valley is always a big feeder for the cougar, right?
And we got a few links. Like, it's not crazy with link. Yeah, if you went back across the river, back towards like where there's logging and stuff, there's a lot more links there.
Yeah.
They had a really good year over there this year. I know some guys that own a couple trap lines there, and they were just, it was slaughter. So many links.
Well, you probably don't support a big rabbit population on your side.
There's a few, and that's
Is
where
there?
we ended up getting them. Like, we only had 5 or 6 lynx sets out, maybe 7 by the end. But at first there was 1, and we got a lynx in the first one, and then we had like 5. We ended up getting 3 lynx, and we're only allowed 4.
Your quote is 4.
Yeah, so that was pretty nice. We were hoping to get 1 or 2, and
So you have quota on Fisher as well?
yeah, just 1.
Just 1.
Yeah, there's not a lot of Fisher there. We managed to get a couple.
Yeah.
So we got one over, but there's
Fisher,
allowed accidental catch as long as you did everything. Like as soon as we got the 1, I took all the 160s down and just tried to limit it. And then the other one was like shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a juvenile, so it got its head in a 120 quite easily. And yeah, but I had a good talk with the biologist about that, and he said, "Oh yeah, as long as you're doing your stuff." And he says if you start going over lots, you'll have to go, try to get the boxes with the holes in them and stuff.
Yeah.
Which none of us really want to do. I think you wouldn't catch as many marten doing that.
I just take and pull everything.
Yeah.
When I have a much larger Fisher quota, but when I run up, when I start get within 3 or 4, 3 or 4 of my Fisher quota, because I mean sometimes you go and you have 6 Fisher, right? Like it can happen like that. So when I get within 3 or whatever, I start pulling everything. I pull all my marten sets because we do kill a ton of them in 120s.
That's plenty big enough to get them. Like
plenty big enough. Well, that guy over there, he was over 14 pounds and he was killed in a 120.
Well, the same with that one. They had the picture of in the cabin. They got one that was over 4 feet long. Like it looks like a Wolverine.
Yeah,
it's crazy. And it was a 120. So, I mean, and that's part of the reason I pulled them a few days early too. We got a second Fisher, and the other one, they're both right near the end. And like the senior told me after caught one, he's like, "Don't worry, we've only ever caught one in like 20 some years." Like, oh yeah. I go, "Oh, don't worry." But no, the biologist was really good. And, I mean, I still think if you have a way to work with them, there's a way that we can figure this out to work together on stuff like that.
I think so too.
So what are your plans? Like what's the next thing you want to accomplish?
In trapping?
In trapping.
Well, first of all, I gotta get a lot more experience. It's been so fun. I want to get, for the future for that line, I'd like to get up to about 40 marten a year. I know I can do that after what I learned this year, because I could have easily had 30, and we trapped like a third of the line.
Right.
So that's kind of my goal, is to get 40 a year, and try to keep that 2 out of 3 males, or very close to that at least. They say 50% is pretty sustainable, but 2 out of 3 is very right in that line. Of course, I'd like to keep trying to get a Wolverine a year, but that's fun, right? But I want to get better at the snaring dogs. We're doing good with the lynx. We do the setup like you. That I think that's just an awesome setup. That's how we got them all. We had a few different setups, never got any lynx, but they were all around the pens.
Yeah.
And they were all big adults, so that was awesome. And but I would like to get onto a line someday, even if it's a junior. Another line so I can do more marten, but I'd like to get into a few more species. Like I'd like to get a north line.
Yeah.
And get into I like trapping lynx. They're so cool, and I wish they were obviously worth a little bit more. I don't understand. They're so beautiful. Like,
it's amazing.
Yeah.
And when you do a display of fur and that, there's never been a lady that didn't walk up and want to touch the lynx.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, that they're just attracted to those cats, and I don't understand either. I really don't. Like everybody talks about the bobcat, and some of them go for $3,500. But when you take a look at the geographic area on the map where those $3,500 bobcat come from, it's this little tiny corner of Wyoming and Utah kind of thing, and that's where those super valuable cats come from. I don't know. I don't know what it is about the lynx. They're gorgeous. At one time, I had enough for. I had 20, just about 2 dozen, I guess, and I was going to have a coat made for you, but then to try and find a furrier that could make you a coat.
Yeah, that's tough. And I mean, the fur is beautiful. You look around here, it's all hanging around, and that's another thing I'd like to get a little bit into. That is, my partner even had said something like that. He'd like to learn how to self-tan some stuff. Just you can experiment. My best friend, he's a trapper too. He made a pair of mitts for a friend, and that turned out really good out of beaver. That's something else I got to get into. That's supposed to be fun. Beaver trapping. It's good bait too.
Well, we're about to start that. We're about to get serious here. We'll be going out Friday and be setting up the big otter line and setting up all the. And we got a lot of beaver this year. Oh my God.
That's
lots
awesome.
and lots and lots of beaver, yeah. But that's a good way to work. That one is. There's lots of work
I
involved.
I got to learn about that a little bit too, and I'm just like a sponge now. I'm like a little kid. I want to soak up everything. I love it. I think it's just a great, not only a pastime but a way of life, and I wish it would come back. Like I always say, I was born probably 50 years too late, because this is what I love to do, between outfitting and trapping and all that. Like there's no better place to be than out there.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? It makes me feel good to see somebody of your age being so involved in it, because sometimes you get to thinking that we're the last dinosaur.
Yeah.
And don't point at me with you. I seen that.
Did they make dinosaur snares back then, or what?
My kids, my boys especially say that I was in on the last Stegosaurus hunt.
I used to. Well, that's another thing in business we have, is a place to finish concrete. That's more Dad's business, but I've worked for him for 20 years, and that's what I always bug him about. Like we got to watch for dogs and kids walking through the concrete. Now, what was it like when you had to, shoot dinosaurs away? It's bad.
I should get together with your dad.
Yeah, but hey, he's 60. Is he 67? 67? Or no, not quite that old. Maybe 65. And he's still pouring concrete. I hope I can do half that. And I just felt like he kind of missed out a little bit. He did awesome with us. He took us fishing, camping, whatever, every weekend hunting. But I feel like if he would have got into something like this, and he comes with me once in a while, or hangs out, helps the guy out, and he just loves it too. So it's kind of cool. I hope I can do that for if I have kids, or friends' kids, or whatever, nieces, nephews. Share that a little bit with, because we have to promote it. I think it is dying, this way of life, in a weird way. Like there's lots of people that love it, but it's
kind of like hunting, though. There aren't as many opportunities to get out there and do the things. It's because same thing. You were mentioning about, we could have had this line for $5,000 or $10,000. It was the same thing when Richard was a kid.
Yep.
Could have had it.
But that was like 50,000 now. So.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, and I mean, we were raising a family, and that was the same. Like when we first got married and had our family. We were just busy trying to pay the bills and put food on the table. We couldn't think about at that time.
Yeah, you weren't allowed to think about it. It just wasn't a priority. You couldn't have it a priority.
Yeah, I mean, it was a dream,
yeah.
Right? And then when this opportunity is so funny, right? Because when we were looking at acquiring a line, it was kind of out in the country where you are now that really appealed to us.
Yeah, actually, up by Nose Creek, and it comes out of Nose Lake.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one line that we were dealing on, and that was where I wanted to be. Right.
Yeah, that's Clegg owns that one. That's one of them up there, and then there's LaValley's own one. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of.
Well, then anyway, we finished our trapping course, and
yeah, I'd been out of it for so long that
we
didn't
have any. Yeah. So anyway, got a notice that these people had to sell because he wasn't well, and she wasn't all that well either. Just a little old couple from up north there by Peace River, and that's how it turned out. But it's just funny, you kind of put that out there, And then it turned out that we have so many species on our line. It's incredibly fun. Yeah.
It's remarkable the opportunity we have as registered trapline owners in Alberta. Like, I mean, we deal with, of course, we talk with people all over North America, and the folks in the States say, you have 144 square miles, it's all yours? You know, you don't have to compete with anybody. No, it's mine. How does that work? Can I buy? You know?
Yeah.
But for a lot of them, they can get one fisher or one marten or whatever, but they identify as trappers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
In the States, yeah.
Yeah.
I can get one.
Yeah.
And we went down to the NTA the last couple of years, the National Trapping Association convention, and that is an eye opener.
Oh my goodness.
I had a client up this year moose hunting, and I was telling him, like I'm getting this trap line. I'm pretty excited about it. He's like, oh, I've been trapping my whole life. So he's like, and I'm like, well, what? He said, Marten. I'm like, oh, perfect. So I'm picking his brain. And he's like, so like, how big is this trap line? I'm like, oh, it's just a little one. And I show him on a map. He's like, kind of does a double take at me. He's like, we get like a cut line, and we have 4 days to trap or something, or 2 weeks or something, and we have to walk. I just started giggling.
I don't feel bad.
He's like, can we go there? No, not this trip, but
come again.
Yeah, come show me some stuff. But we actually have to be a little bit careful on that. And like, when you buy a trap line, it's for trapping.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we there's some rules in place, and as long as people aren't abusing it too much, I think. And because they are starting to come down a little bit on that, it sounds.
I think it's a straw man for the biggest part. There, I think there's a lot less trap lines that aren't being utilized. Than I mean, it's just one of those things that people always claiming what's going on. I don't think it's near as bad. There are trap lines not being used, but they're usually because somebody has died or those kind of situations,
or illness or something like
but
that.
I don't think that there's very many of that are just recreational, where people aren't trapping. They just got it for a place to build a cabin. I think that's pretty much been got under control.
Yeah.
I think
quadding area or whatever. Yeah.
You exhibit one of the difficulties I have when people ask about trapping is explaining what's so great about it. It's like you say, you got to take people out and show them. Like, I mean, how do you ever explain to somebody what it's like at midnight in the middle of nowhere, and it's just you?
And that would probably be my biggest goal and proponent. Now that you talk about goals, like what's my next goal? I would love if in Alberta, because when I'm guiding stuff, lots of these outfitters I guide for in other provinces have trap lines, and they sell trap line experiences.
Yep.
And that's a thing that they don't allow in Alberta. And I'm fine if they don't. But there's got to be a way a trapper should be able to make a little bit of money when the fur prices are down or it's not good, or a secondary way. Like, it should become an industry a bit more again, I think. And I think that's where it is. Like, people are charging a lot per day for these, and these people want to come up, and they just want to come and skidoo around the line. They don't even want to touch. You don't have to have them touching the traps.
Nope.
They just want to go experience it and see what it's like, and maybe you catch something, they feel the fur, or maybe they buy some of the tan fur that you have.
Well, you don't have to explain to us, because we have thousands of requests from people that want to come do it.
Well, yeah, you stay in a cabin for 2 or 3 or 4 nights. Like, it doesn't matter. It could be 5 nights, it could be 1 night. Like, you can sell all kinds of packages, and there's such an opportunity there for tourism without leaving a carbon footprint, really.
Yeah. Well, it has been most enjoyable, and we could talk for forever. Do you have a website where if people want to go check out your outfitting or check out your videos?
Yep. It's all linked to the website, just mountainmanadventures.com, and click on there, and there's a Vimeo page there for videos. There's pictures. I don't think I have any prices listed. That's more of a contact thing, because I try to personalize everything I do as much as I can. But mountainmanadventures.com should get you there, or Instagram, Facebook accounts, all that fun stuff. You want to manage that for me? I'm sick of managing it. I want to go to the cabin.
In our spare time. We'll just hook you up.
It has been a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
It's really nice to have you.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed this talk. We've rambled all over everything, and we've solved many of the problems of the world. We've had a great time here, and we hope to see you guys down the line.